When we exercise, an exercised muscle makes better use of the amino acids from your protein nutrition. The thing I think you mentioned was dietary protein, and again, resistance exercise gives us the huge benefit, and the potentially small added benefit that we can get on top of that can come through consuming adequate dietary protein. So in older age, the amount of protein we consume generally starts to deteriorate for a whole host of reasons. There are impairments in appetite, as I mentioned, our ability to chew, swallow, digest food, all of these things change. Our food preferences perhaps start to become a bit more monotonous. So we perhaps don't get the range of protein-rich foods that we once did. And there's general thinking that the dietary protein requirements should be higher for older adults than the general population in order to support their muscle health. So consuming adequate dietary protein is really important, and um, I think that's across all meals in the day as well. So making sure you're getting having a protein rich breakfast. There's a high amount of protein in lunch, and also dinner is really really important. Breakfast and lunch tend to be problematic areas for older adults in terms of protein consumption. They can sometimes be grain or carbohydrate heavy. Certainly breakfast is anyway. So, the amount of protein consumed across the day can be what I would say is less than optimal to support how our muscle adapts and responds to exercise. The simplest way to think of it is when we consume protein, that protein, the amino acids are broken down. They appear in our circulation, and our muscles use them to remodel and build. And so we always need amino acids to support muscle right throughout the life course. In older age, our muscles don't seem as efficient at using those amino acids, so they struggle to kind of respond and use those amino acids for really important metabolic processes. Um, when we exercise, an exercised muscle makes better use of the amino acids from your protein nutrition. So that exercise muscle, all of a sudden, it's able to better handle and deal with the amino acids that are provided through your protein-rich meals. So the synergistic, is the kind of relationship between protein and exercise for muscle health benefit, seems to be really synergistic and additive.
There's definitely been a bit of a change in the supermarket. There seems to be an obsession with high protein foods. I now see aisles that are all high protein, high protein, high protein. Is that gone a little bit too far per se? Like, can the average person get enough protein from a good, healthy diet? And secondary to that, would there be any little basic tips, like what types of food or would be some sensible choices for the average person to get a little bit more protein in their diet?
Yeah, you're correct to state that we're in an age now where we see sections of supermarkets devoted to high protein, and the high protein label is badged on. If you look right across the population, you took, yeah, hundreds of thousands of people, you'd actually find that the protein intake levels are generally above the recommendations. Now, the recommendations are interesting because they are based on the amount of protein we should consume to avoid deficiency. Protein deficiency obviously leads to all kinds of potential health harms. So those recommendations are based on this idea of avoiding deficiency. Now, avoiding deficiency is not the same as optimizing or trying to get better health benefits. So they're two different things. So yeah, looking across the population, most people consume enough protein to avoid deficiency, which is why we don't see really high rates of illnesses that are associated with protein malnutrition in the UK. The same in North America and most other places as well. But again, the guidelines are based on avoiding deficiency, and they also don't take into account how much protein is required to support muscle health. And we know that older muscles seem to require more protein in a given meal to mount the same type of metabolic response as a young muscle.